Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dana and I'm so excited to finally sit down and film this video because I've been using these products for a while now and I want to talk about them. You guys, this was the biggest request on my, I did a post on YouTube and like a poll of which one you wanted to see first. The Versed makeup was the number one. So that's what we're sitting down to do. I'm gonna go through it all. I'm gonna apply it to my face. I'm gonna tell you what I think. I've been wearing these pretty much nonstop for the last few weeks and we'll just get into it because there's nothing else to say. Okay, so first things first is get your hair out of your face. And I'm gonna be talking you through each product and then at the end we'll go over my final thoughts on each one. I do wanna start off by saying though that the first product is the Skin Tint, Multi-Serum Skin Tint SPF 40. This is not your sunscreen. This is your makeup. It's got added SPF to it, but I don't ever use this as my sole sunscreen. There's just too much pigment. It would be a very, very full coverage foundation if I did it like that. So I already have my sunscreen on. Today I am using the CIELE Prime and Protect. Beautiful. It's been sitting for like 10, 15 minutes already. I also did put a little bit of primer on. This is my little primer. This is the TONYMOLY. TONYMOLY, why is that so hard to say? And I love this stuff. It kind of just gives you a little bit more of a matte base if you want that. So I just put it on the T-zone because I did have a bit of a glow from the sunscreen, but then we're just gonna go in over top. So if you're wondering why I'm not using enough or a lot, like a quarter of a teaspoon, again, this is a bonus. It's not your main sunscreen. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to say is I'm gonna be doing half and half. This is the new brush from Versed. I've been using it quite a bit, dirty. And then I'm gonna be using a sponge on the other side. I like to just use a dry sponge. I don't dampen it. So I'm gonna show you the difference, what it looks like in that sense, and then we'll just get into it. We already are. The first product that I am putting on my face today is the Multi-Serum Skin Tint SPF 40. This comes in 14 shades and the shade that I have is 5N, so 5 neutral. I originally got the 3 shade and then the 6 shade. The 6 shade was too warm, it was like an olive undertone, and the 3 shade was just too light for me. So the 5 shade was kind of a good in-between shade. But I will say that this does have more coverage than I was expecting. So while there are 14 shades, I think you actually need a pretty good shade match so that it actually matches your skin tone. Otherwise, if it's a more sheer type of coverage, you can usually get away with something that is like a little bit more, fits a few more different skin tones. This retails for $19.99 and it does come in 1 fluid ounce, which is your standard amount for makeup, not sunscreen. They say that this has a skin-like finish and feels lightweight and gives a lit from within hydrating glow that stays put all day. Definitely agree that it gives you this lit from within glow. I think it does look very skin-like, but I caution people because you can build it up quite easily and get a lot of coverage. So the more coverage you get, usually the less skin-like it does look. And then as far as stays put all day, I mean, no, unless you're using a setting spray, these types of things don't really set down 100% like some other foundations. So I wouldn't say if you do nothing, it's gonna stay put all day. It's not gonna be transfer proof and transfer resistant, but you can do things like setting spray. This is my favorite setting spray for that kind of thing, the one size. And then you will have a lot less transfer, but doing absolutely nothing will not make it transfer proof. Okay, so what I did was I did 1 full pump and I did half with a brush and half with a sponge. You're definitely gonna get more coverage and the product is gonna go further when you're using the brush. So this side was just the brush and this side I used the sponge. And I feel like I could use a little bit more, but like also probably fine. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is I feel like this brush side is definitely glowier because the product isn't getting soaked up by the sponge. It's not getting like pushed into your face. Whereas on the sponge side, you can just see the amount of glow is less. Like look at my forehead. But what I typically also do is even if I use a brush, I'm gonna go in with the sponge afterward and just kind of push it into my face. The sponge also soaks up any extra product because you just don't want, well, I don't want like a ton of extra product. So I'm just gonna do that and finish off the base. I'll speak briefly on the brush. This is the multitasking brush. It retails again for $14.99 and they say that it's a multitasking face brush. It is very lightweight, but I do like the fact that it is dense enough to really give you the coverage you want. So like if you're blending out a concealer, sometimes if the bristles are too loose and like spaced out, you're not gonna get any coverage. It's not going to give you the most seamless finish. But this one, because it is dense enough, you can really kind of tap it in. You can blend it out. It works really well. I really love the fact that it has this tapered look to it. And overall, I think for $15, it's one of the better brushes that I have. And I would consider repurchasing this over a lot of more expensive brushes. So just wanted to put that in there because it is part of this review. Also, it's always out of stock. I think I got it at Target and it's out of stock on their website. So just something to consider. Okay, so that is one pump all over my face. Typically, if I'm just doing my makeup and I'm not recording it, I actually, for this one, I do like to use a sponge best. I don't want as much coverage as this skin tint gives. You can get, I would say like medium coverage for sure with this. And I want a little bit of a thinner, lighter coverage. So in my opinion, the sponge works best, but the brush also works. So it's really about personal preference and kind of what finish you want, what coverage you want, that kind of thing. One other thing that I want to say is I did turn off, I have a little lamp on my desk. I turned that off in the middle of this, which is not ideal, but also I'm doing this in natural light these days. So I thought that this would give you a little bit better of a glimpse of what it looks like. So please don't crucify me for that. Okay, next up is the concealer. I'm gonna stop talking again. I just said I'm gonna stop talking and then I didn't stop talking. I don't actually think I need concealer at this point. I think the skin tint has enough coverage for me that I wouldn't need to go in with concealer. I'm doing it for the sake of this video because I am testing and trying all of the products on camera. But if this were just me on an everyday basis, I would do the skin tint and not necessarily need the concealer just because I don't think I have any blemishes or anything like that. And it does have this interesting applicator, which you can see. It's got like this little hole in the middle where the product kind of goes. And it does a nice job of giving you quite a bit of product. And then once you use it, you just don't get too much on the brush, I feel like. And again, I really like using my sponge for this. Okay, next up is the Serum Concealer from Versed. This retails for $14.99. Also, I don't think I mentioned this, but you can get it at Target, which is amazing, or on their website. Sometimes if the shade is sold out on their website, you can get it at Target and vice versa. I have the shade 5N, which is the same shade as the foundation or the skin tint, and that is a light medium neutral shade. They say this weightless concealer feels like a hydrating serum and delivers medium coverage that goes on creamy and blends right in. I 100% agree that this is medium coverage. You get quite a bit of coverage from this, and I've really been enjoying using this as a one and done base. So I'll put my sunscreen on and then just use this, and I get more than enough coverage from it, and it blends out so nicely. But I really think it's the fact that it has medium coverage and it's not patchy and it doesn't really pill or build up on me in weird ways that I've been loving so much. They also say that it is a self-setting formula, which is one of my favorite things with the concealer. So you can powder if you would like, but you do not have to. And I feel like it looks way better when you don't powder and it just looks more natural. Okay, next up we have the blush stick. This retails again for $14.99, which is a really affordable price. All of these are considered drugstore prices, and it comes in 5 shades. I have the shade Brownstone, which I really had to like force myself to get because it is quite a deep, rich shade. It is the shade Rusty Red, which they call it. And I showed you on the back of my hand and then on my face. But honestly, I have been loving this blush more than any blush I've gotten in a long time. And I think it's because I went out of my comfort zone. I would normally have picked up like the neutral or the pink shade. And because this looks so deep and intimidating, I was like, I don't know if it's gonna be too much. But it blends out so nicely, so smoothly. And if you put a little bit too much on, it's very easy to fix. I usually just go over with my sponge or brush. But this shade is just perfection. I really think that people, sometimes we tend to like veer toward those neutral or pink tones, but really this red shade is a little bit more of a natural shade of a blush. And the other thing about this shade in particular, Brownstone, is that A lot of times when it's like a reddish brownish shade, it really pulls more kind of like corally or like orangey, and this one really pulls more red, at least on my skin tone. So I do highly recommend trying out this shade. If it's something that's outside of your comfort zone, that's exactly what I did, and I have never been happier with this shade. You can also use it on your lips. They do say that it works on your lips. Most blushes do. So it's quite flexible and lightweight in terms of the like coverage and the pigment. The next one I have is the Day Lash Lifting and Defining Mascara. Again, $14.99. Sensing a theme here. It comes in 2 shades, black and brown. I have the shade brown. That's what I typically go for day in, day out. And they say that this mascara lifts, lengthens, and defines without the clumps. It's lightweight and water resistant, which I didn't know it was water resistant, but I think water resistant is quite different from waterproof, because I don't like waterproof mascaras. They never come off, and this one seems to come off just fine. I would say that this is a pretty everyday mascara. I am having some issues right now with my lashes. They have just fallen out and are very short. So I don't think this is giving you the best kind of like glimpse at it. When my lashes are longer and like a little bit more just full, it probably would look better. But for a very everyday look, this is what I've been going to, and it's been working really nicely. It also has this tapered wand. So as you can see here, the wand is the plastic bristles, but then it kind of like goes in the middle, and nothing too crazy. I do wish they had the little ball tip at the end. Sometimes when the lashes are, or when the bristles are at the end, it just allows you to kind of like get into the inner corner really easily. And that's just one thing I would add. The other just small note is I find myself having to go over in 2 layers. So the first layer I do, and then I go to the other lash or the other eye, and then I come back, and by that time the first eye has dried and the mascara can really build up on itself, and it still won't be clumpy or like spidery, but it just kind of gives it that drying time, which I find to be super important, because this is, while not the wettest formula, it definitely veers toward the wet side versus the dry side. And I think sometimes with the drier mascara, you get a little bit better of an effect with it. I can't really speak to curling power with this mascara, and that's just my own lashes being kind of not the best right now. But it doesn't flake on me, even if I don't powder. So I don't think that's an issue, but I don't really have flaking issues. And then as far as like definition or volume, I would say this is gonna go more toward the definition side versus the volume side. Okay, then we have the Soft Gloss Tinted Lip Serum. This comes in 5 shades. I have the shade Bake. I don't think I got the right shade because I don't really like brown on my lips. So that shade for me is probably just not my perfect shade. I'll probably pass this on, but I do like the kind of like the feel of this serum when it goes on. It gives you a slight tingle, but it's not plumping in the sense that like sometimes like your lips are on fire. But otherwise, other than that, it is a pretty standard moisturizing gloss. I don't find that it stays on your lips long at all. I mean, it is not meant to. So I don't find myself reaching for this over the other one, which I will get to. But I do really like the way that it makes my lips feel. So if that's something that you like or you don't like, that is something to consider, because the other one does not have that. And I forgot to mention, this retails for $11.99. Okay, and the last item that I have is the Cashmere Color Smoothing Lip Blush. Again, this comes in 5 shades. And I went back to my roots and I got the shade that is more suited to me, which is the shade Casual. That is considered a coral pink. That's what I have on my lips right now. And they say that this balm gives a touch of color and smoothing soft matte finish, which I 100% agree with. And honestly, it's kind of weird because you think matte and so you think drying, but this does not dry out your lips. It really kind of feels like just a nice like satin kind of finish, not too glossy, not too matte. And it does kind of last on your lips a little bit longer, especially than the first one, the glossy one that we had on. The other thing that I do love about this lip color is that I feel like it is the right amount of pigment. Sometimes, especially when you have like more intense shades, the second you put it on, your lips just are like overcome with any pigment, whatever the color is. This, it's like very easy to build up. You can do a very sheer amount, you can build it up a little. It's not gonna be full on pigment, but I find it to be just the perfect in-between amount. Okay, let's go over my favorites from the line. So number 1 is the concealer. This concealer rivals top end brands. I'm talking like $30, $35 ones from Sephora, and it's $15.99. I think the shade range could obviously use some improvement because we only have 14 shades. But I think that for the most part, if you can find a shade that works for you, this can, and if you like medium coverage, if you like more sheer coverage, this is not for you. But it's not like a heavy medium, it's just a really nice amount of medium coverage that if you want maybe less coverage, just use a little bit less. But this has been like all I reach for, and I'm using this instead of any foundation, just on top of sunscreen. And it's just been one of these things that I cannot get enough of. The other thing that I've been loving is this blush. I think the formula, it's not necessarily like revolutionary. I do like the fact that it stays put. It's not one of those cream formulas that is you put it on your face and it's gone immediately. Like I didn't build it up too much, but if I did and I put a bit more on, it would be long lasting throughout the day. But I'm kind of going for like a more natural look. But I think the shade is just perfection. So I don't know if the other 4 shades are as good, but I have heard that people have been loving them. But the shade Brownstone and this formula have just been a hit in my book. And the other thing that I've been loving, this went immediately into my purse, is this Cashmere color. I think it's just that perfect, like very easy color. You can put it on your lips. You don't have to think. It's not gonna look patchy. It's not gonna look too heavy. It's not gonna look too light. The fact that it is this soft, like just very easy to use matte is also great because it doesn't transfer too much. Like the gloss can just come off the second I drink a sip of water. This lasts a lot longer, and I think this shade, especially on me, is just the perfect shade. I forgot, the other thing that I really do love is the brush. I think this is gonna be a staple in my collection, and it's just automatically over there. The other 2 products that I think are really great are the skin tint and then the mascara. The mascara, it takes a lot for a mascara to kind of blow me away. I think this is a great everyday mascara, and that's exactly what I have been wanting lately. But is it gonna be like my be all, end all be all? Which way do you say it? I forget. Anyway, no, but I definitely know that it's gonna go into my collection and I'm not gonna get rid of it or anything. The other thing is the skin tint. This skin tint is one of the better ones that I've tried lately. I'm just in a little bit of a phase where I'm not using foundations or skin tints and I'm just using concealers. It's probably this concealer's fault. So there's no knock on it. I think it's actually one of the more beautiful kind of natural skin tints. And I'm gonna be keeping it for sure. It's just, I'm in a phase, you know, I'm going through a phase. The last item, which I think is a pass for me, is this tinted lip serum. I don't know, if you're anything like me, you have so many serums and tints and everything for your lip that this just doesn't feel remarkable. And the shades, at least from what I've seen and the one I have, is like pretty standard. So there's nothing too crazy about it. I do like that little tingle that I get from it, but it's not, like I don't sit around thinking about it if I don't have it. So for me, it's a pass. I would prefer the other cashmere color over it. All right, guys, so that is that. Sorry about the lighting. I've had to change it a few times during this video. It's a rainy, overcast day, so I'm really trying to work with what I got here. All right, so I'm gonna wrap it up there. If you do, I will have everything linked in the description below, of course. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.